Hello, everybody. A very good evening to all who are joining from India. And if you're joining from somewhere outside of India, good morning or good afternoon. First of all, wishing all of you a very happy new year. I am Bidisha Bhattacharya, Growth Manager of ScrollStack. Welcome to our fourth ScrollStack Academy Masterclass and also the first Masterclass of this year on city photography. Our last masterclass focused on business writing for a global audience, where Kevin Delaney shared some fantastic tips and tricks on how to go about the process of business writing. So, if you haven't checked that out yet, please do visit our YouTube channel or Facebook page where you will find all our masterclass videos. Now, before we jump into that, for the folks who are attending for the first time, I will give you a quick overview of what ScrollStack is and what we are doing with ScrollStack Academy. ScrollStack, which you can find on scrollstack.com, is a free creator platform to make sure that all kinds of creators, whether you write, talk, shoot, whether you create different forms of art, it's a platform to actually create a home for your best work. We do not believe in limiting creativity into one single form. It is completely free for everybody. It's also a multilingual platform that is built for global languages from ground up, and it has payments integrated so that you can charge your followers as well. ScrollStack Academy is our initiative to ensure those who are on ScrollStack and also creators around the world as well get to be better at things they are focusing on. For instance, writing, audio, podcasts, business writing, fiction, photography, illustrations, and many more. With that, I am really excited to present our masterclass today with Gopal on city photography. Gopal doesn't really need an introduction. Nevertheless, I will try my best to give a brief overview of what Gopal has been working on for the past decade. Gopal is a photo blogger who has been documenting the streets of Mumbai for over a decade on his blog, mumbaipause.com. He's also a copywriter working for an advertising agency. In his free time, he explores the main roads, side streets, and footpaths of the city. He tries to share at least one or two images of the city every day on Instagram and his blog. So do check out his Instagram, guys. It's pretty interesting. Over the years, he has built a collection of city stories, a few of which are available as photo books. You will not find him sharing the city of dreams and the glamour associated with the city of Mumbai. Instead, you will see the quieter, unspoken, almost hidden lives and happenings. Sharing images on the World Wide Web is as important to him as taking photographs. In his masterclass, he will take us through photo blogging, how to use photography to document places, using a blog to create lasting stories, and the process involved in documenting and using photos to tell stories. So, without further ado, I will hand the floor off to Gopal, and at the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. So, wherever you are following this masterclass, please ask your questions in the comment section. We've had a pretty good record of answering most questions in our session, so we will see if we can make that happen today as well. With that, Gopal, over to you.
Thank you, Vidisha. Thank you, Scroll Stack, and it's my pleasure to be here. And Happy New Year to everybody. It's been a challenging year. In fact, the last year I didn't post 2 pictures a day because of the lockdown. But nevertheless, the new year I hope to do that. And so today I'm going to speak about city photography. Photography, as you know, is a very broad subject, and of the many things that that can be done with the medium of photography, uh, the documenting a city is what I have chosen to do, and I will be talking about what I do, how I got to do it, why I do it, and most importantly, the processes and the method that is involved that will help you not just with doing city photography or street photography. It is something that you can apply for whatever is the kind of photography that that warms your heart, or it can also be used in other fields, like if you like to write, it's something that you can do there. As we progress, we'll know what I mean. And uh, and uh, all this is made possible because of one thing, which is the ascendancy of digital media. Uh, So, a brief introduction to the obvious, which is but often overlooked, which is why is it that we are all connected like this, and that is uh, the digital media. And I owe us, and most of us of my generation, your generation, all of us owe a lot to the digital revolution, or the internet, the free, the a place where you can share everything, to this phase of photography, which is almost 20 years old now, but still as young. And and what has happened is that it made photography democratic. Uh, uh, I started shooting because I could afford a digital camera, which is cheap. I can share it quite easily online, and I can put my point of view without having any gatekeepers telling me whether I'm good or bad. In fact, I learned started shooting. I mean, it's like a baby walking. It's like it's like watching a baby take its first steps, and everything is open out there on the internet. And that's been my journey, and it has also been the journey of most creators in the last 20 odd years, where they take baby steps online, and we slowly grow. We and Most importantly, we learn, we observe, and then the greatest joy of all, which is sharing, which is what makes our work that much more important. The feedback is immediate, like they say. And ScrollStack is an amazing media, is an amazing platform. And uh, and what it's made of, like the new way of blogging, the new way of creators finding a place to share their work. So I owe a lot to blogging, uh, uh, and that is made possible by the digital media. And it is also a fact that the digital media is where we overlook that we overlook when once we start taking photograph once we start doing photography, is that we are while we are immersed in our processes of photography and what we like to do, we get emotionally uh, carried away by the digital media. Either it is positive or it is negative. Some people go overboard, some by oversharing. Some people get scared of the entire feedback mechanism. But unfortunately, if you're if you're an introvert, you can probably have a digital disguise like me. I call myself Mumbai Purse, so very few people earlier knew who I was. Most people still don't know who I am, but you can do that. Uh, but at the same time, it also allows artists to take blogging, or to take it to a different new level. I will get more into this blogging part of it in the coming slides. But we'll start with basics for people who are beginners, because it's always good to start um, from the foundation. And the truth about photography, or writing, or illustration, or accountancy also, I guess, is that the more you do it, the better you get. So this has to be underlined from the beginning, that the more you do, the better you get, and the more you learn. So the first rule of photography is shoot a lot. I mean, there are many first rules. So the first among the first is that you shoot a lot. And with a digital camera, or and with different tools available now, it's affordable to do something like that. So you have to shoot a lot. But I'll also tell you what to shoot, so don't worry about that. And and they say that the first 10,000 images is where you learn, or after that you become an expert. It's a cliched line, but it is also the truth. By the time you have shot 10,000, you would have earned a lot of, you would have learned a lot, and you would have also, in today's age, because you're also sharing your images, you would have also learned a lot about how to communicate. So making it a habit is something that will make you do that 10,000 shots, fun stuff. Like for example, I'll give you my example. I shoot on my way to work. That way, because I shoot the city, I don't have to take time out to go and shoot like a bird. I mean, like a birder or a bird photographer, or I don't have to have a studio like somebody who does portraits. But I made it a habit to walk a lot around the city and take as many images as possible. During before the lockdown, I used to walk about 5 to 6 kilometers a day in the morning and evening, and whenever I got time. It's very simple. It's like you go to like if I have a meeting at say Bandra, I land up an hour earlier and I stroll around, have exploring the place. I get 2 or 3 images and then I attend a meeting. So it's a habit, and the habit here is carrying a camera with you. And with a mobile phone, you always carry a camera with you. So that's my habit. So if you like photography, you have to make it a habit um to ensure that okay, like the image over here at 8 p.m. I'm going to have a pig, for example. Just giving a bad example, but similarly, if you make it a habit, it becomes almost second hand. I mean, it almost become like a muscle reflex that you'll start shooting images. It will also, as a photographer, help you improve your eyes and skills. So making it a habit, and then coming to the second part of that line, which is advantages of blogging. So it's not about blogging; it's about Instagramming also. What I do is I immediately share what I shoot. So what it does is it's like the writers who when you write a novel, you write 500 approximately 500 letters a day, for example, and you complete your novel ahead of time or in time. Similarly, blogging is something that gets you hooked to sharing. And if you have fans, and if you have people who are following your work, they also make it a habit to follow what you're doing. It has worked for me. It will definitely work for it has definitely worked for many photographers. It definitely works for all kinds of creative people, and you have to make it a habit. And that up to you, but of course I'm saying that you have to make it a habit. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it helps. Then there is this thing called experimenting, uh, which is I'm not going into the technical aspects of experimenting with gear and stuff like that, but uh, photography and is actually a Western medium, in the sense it's invented by the West. It's also technologically driven. Everything in photography is driven by technology and advances in technology. It can be the camera, it can be how small the camera is becoming, it can also be about how fast you share, how you share, and how people react to it. But experimenting is not just restricted to your gear, your lenses, and your and lighting and stuff like that. Of course, you have to do all those things, but it is also about experimenting with how you amplify your work, or how you take your work to the people. That is, if you're so inclined. And it is also about experimenting with storytelling, which I will go into detail in a later thing, which is how you can experiment with stories and how you can develop stories. uh, in fact, what I'm going to speak about is actually quite similar to what the earliest master classes were about writing and business writing and stuff like that, because end of the day, it is at some level putting your point of view across, and it's communicating with people. So yeah, except that here you are using a visual medium, and it's not a visual medium on steroids like video, but it's static images. So experiment, definitely keep experimenting. If you have fallen back, if you're slacked a bit, it's always good to pep up and start experimenting. This I'm advising myself because of the lockdown, but yeah. And then when you experiment, there is this beautiful magic that happens, and that is you start to listen to people. My background is in advertising, so until I picked up the camera, I was a typical advertising guy. I used to work in an office. I used to write ads, try to come up with funny stuff or interesting stuff, but I was actually totally disconnected with people. And I think I was also not a when I look back, I was like one of those people, the typical ad person that people hate. It's like the cocky people, the people with who think they know all. I was a person like that. And what the camera did was make me actually bad at advertising, in the sense I became less selfish. I started to explore the city. I started to look around. I started listening to people whom I used to actually advertise for earlier, about their habits and stuff like that. And then I started observing minute details. I started developing what is rare in these days, which is empathy. There's a long way to go, but these are the things that you learn when you walk around this. When you get a camera and start walking around the city, it's applicable to if you're a photojournalist. Also, it's also applicable when you do other forms of photography. But in India, in a city that is fast changing, in a city that is growing, where it's a melting pot. It's like an encyclopedia. It's non-stop discovery. If you are a information seeker, if you are a sponge for ideas and experiences, a camera is your best friend. You see it through the eyes of the camera, but yeah, it reaches you in very. I mean, you become a better person, is what I feel. And when you do this, there is something that comes, which is you develop a sixth sense. And that comes with after your 10,000 or 20,000 photographs. You develop a sixth sense for the kind of stories that are signature yours. Like everybody has a superpower, and I think everybody with a camera also has a unique eye, and that unique eye is the story that you see, and that you can see in a very beautiful way which nobody else can see. Like if you give a camera to 10 different children, that each child will see the world differently if they're allowed to roam freely. It's the same way. You're a child, and I mean, you're childlike, and all of us, that's what I believe. And the minute you get a camera and you start playing around with it, you start discovering that something that is very unique to you, which nobody else possesses. And that's what makes all of us unique. It also what makes humanity that much more beautiful. And when you develop that sixth sense, uh, uh, latch onto it like a loved one. And it's because you have to focus on it. And there begins it's like a funnel, in the sense you in the initial phase, you look at different things, and then you identify something that you like to do. Like for example, in my case, it is street photography. And then I go deeper into it. The funnel closes. I'm just doing street photography. And once I enter into it, you realize, or I realized, and you will also realize when you do it, that this path leads to several other things, hundreds of other insights. And you become I mean, yeah, it's like expertise. And then you don't actually specialize in one thing, but that specialization actually open windows to many new things. So which is why you have to focus on what you love to do. And most often than not, that interest that you develop in photography, or the type of photography, will be intrinsically linked to what is it that what is that you love, your first love. Like, is it about animals that you like pets, for example, or you like nature photography, or you like architecture, you like how things are built, or I mean, there are hundreds of ways of photography. In my case, it was street photography. I love cities. I always loved cities, city books and stuff like that. And when I got a camera, I fell deeper in love with cities, and I enjoying doing what I do. And that is important. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then you'll. I mean, I don't. You can strive till you find what you like to do, but you have to loving what you do is a beautiful way to experience this world. And something that I told earlier, and which is very important to today's age, is social amplification, which is where blogging comes in, which is where your emailers, custom-made emailers come in, where your Instagram comes in, the most popular medium at the moment. It, uh, uh, it it's great that Instagram is the what do you call the biggest social media platform at the moment, at least the most talked about, and it's based on photography. But it might not be the for long. I mean, there will be other things like videos are are on steroids right now. So like the TikToks of the world and stuff like that, there'll be something that will always replace it. But social amplification is important, and you have to, if you so intend to uh, amplify your work, then you have to be you have to use what other people use, which is Instagram and social media. This image is actually from I think uh, from Kurla, or the station next to it, uh, uh, Lokmanya Tilak terminus, I think. And this is a very it's a trans person's uh, self advertising. Anybody who traveled on Harbour Line would have seen these photographs many times. So be I mean, it's not about shame. If you think you're great, if you think your work is good, don't be shy to amplify about it. There like it might not meet the standards of whom you admire, but it will always be one step towards greatness for you. And so that's it. That's the intro. So now I'll get into something more about how I do it, which is the processes and stuff that I follow. And I'm hoping that it will be. I mean, it's helpful. It's something that others follow too, photographers. So it will definitely help you too. And uh, so there is a process to the storytelling and to observing. So I'll take one. I'll be using examples of my own stories to get this story across, which is the process of stories is that especially in street photography, is patterns. So you have when you start shooting 10,000 photographs or 5,000 photographs in a year or over a period of time, and when you look back at it, you will realize that there are patterns in what you shoot. And here lies something which is very important to today's medium, which today's different social platforms, is that everything is instant, but what survives is what is long term. So how do you balance the instant, the Instagram, with the long term? So so therein comes the this thing about identifying patterns. Like for example, I have this hashtag called Indian Tideline, where I tell stories of the Indian coastline. It started off innocently, like shooting the city, but along the coastline. But then I started noticing that the people in Bombay, for example, do not really care about the or not do not have the time to think about the coastline, the sea. We are an island city, and we are surrounded by the sea, but the tides and related stuff are highly are not top of mind for us. So how do you bring alive a story like that? So which is when I started exploring the coastal communities, or the different parts of how humans interact with the sea, or I mean, people in Bombay interact with the sea, and how the life, the Gautans, the fishing community, the climate change, the sea wall that is probably coming up in Warsaw, stuff like that. So, and I also shoot wherever I go across India. Like the first picture is from Kerala, the second is from Goa, and the third one is from actually uh, uh, from Mumbai. That's on a high tide day when the sea crashes into the sea. So different stories, and you know the you see a pattern developing of how people of stories. So I don't go along looking for quirky photographs. I just walk, and then when you shoot many images, a pattern comes into space. And in my case, the pattern that I have noticed over here is how it's not about you might notice a landscape or a seascape, but I see how people interact with the beach, or with the sea, or with the coastline, or with the open space and different aspects of it, like climate change. So it allows you to when you shoot a place or a topic for a long time, several patterns develop, which each of which can become amazing stories or books, uh, or a movie, or yeah, expression is up to you. But yeah, so the noticing patterns and finding thread and developing it and weaving it into a textile is what I meant. It's amazing stories like these that where this is actually the mangroves in Vashi. This was over a period of 1 week when the mangroves were attacked by pests. Now, for example, now this set off another pattern and thread of stories for me, where I started looking at mangroves of Mumbai, not just the sea, but also mangroves, and how the how people how we are dealing with it, and it also brings in the story of climate change and stuff like that. So yeah, so patterns will help you think get deeper into your stories, and to get find patterns, there is a process, and that process is shooting a lot and analyzing your images, and noting patterns that can be developed into interesting stories that you like as well as people will like. Similarly, there are one more story that I would like to share just to illustrate it. Is I have this hashtag called Arm Artist Gallery, where I take stories of I look at art that is created by people on the streets of India. It could be a rangoli, it could be a story, it could be somebody a typical Indian male shutting a woman, like how you can see in this image, which is I mean it's a random act of. That of somebody putting a tape there, but it speaks a lot about the society, for example. So I was actually looking for stories of art, the streets, and but while it is about art, they all tell stories that are that go a little deeper, and the process reveals a lot of these stories. Like the first image is about a place where you get water. You have a water tap. It's a sabil, so it's a like Bombay is a place where water is supposed to be given freely. It's part of Bombay's culture, and this is a sabil from in Bombay, Shivajinagar. Second is an image from a temple in Bangalore, and it's here as art, but Bangalore is pensioners' paradise, so I build a connection there. And then the last one is again from Bangalore, but it's actually a story about the art that you see on buses in South India, or it can be trucks and stuff like that. It's like you have something as art about it's about I did the process was finding art created by regular people, but the story is about the people themselves and who they are, and what they want to express without showing the people, of course, and without like there are many ways to do this. I could have actually shot portraits of people, of artists and the real artists, but I can, if I show their work, then I can show what they were trying to say, or what is their role in society, for example, if they're doing it for somebody else. So different things. So the city is full of stories, and what I do is this is in hindsight. I look at it as layers of the city. So uh, you have the city can be seen from the point of views of different people, from the high rise, from the underground, from ground level, and you can also see it from the eyes of the old people. Like Bombay is young, restless, and one lockdown, and all the restless and young people have left. Those who could afford to leave have left the city and gone back home, and the people whom nobody cares for, the gray, the older people, are here, and suddenly. Not that everybody has left, but yeah, but it's a city. What the point I'm trying to make is that the city is so fast and so unfriendly to the old people. Like they are only forced to take buses during the what do you call, during non-peak hours. They can never ride the train at peak hour. The seniors compartment in a train never is always full with youngsters. So stuff like that. So now if I have to look, if I put myself in the shoe of an old person and start looking at the city, I see the city in an entirely different light. So that is another process. And again, when you do that, there is a lot of patterns that you see developing. Excuse me. So I have this entire series on graying, and if you have noticed, I'm using hashtags everywhere, and that is probably because I'm an advertising copywriter, and it's also the Instagram generation. So by kind of giving it a title, or it could be a book title also, by giving it a title and giving it a very sharp focus, or a title, I'm able to kind of express my story a little better. And uh, and uh, also I should say that all these ideas don't come to me by sitting in a room. All these ideas are actually come to me from the street. Like, for example, I Mumbai graying started because I was once walking down a street, and I saw this old man who was playing a violin, sitting next to a shop where he was selling tender coconuts and or milk, if I remember right. And there was this old lady who was walking by, and he started playing a little louder and a romantic song. And he would have been in his 70s, and the lady would have been she was walking with a walking stick, and she would have been around the same age. And suddenly it struck me that it's a different world that they live in. And then I decided that, yeah, I should start seeing the city from the point of view of older people. And that's how it started. So it's always all these ideas, that all the hashtags, they are all thrown up by the street. So city photography starts by walking and observing and listening. And if you're stuck for ideas, just walk around, and the ideas just keep flowing from the city. Of course, you have to be receptive to it. So that's a disclaimer. And uh, then the opposite spectrum, looking at this from the point of view of children. Now, actually, when I started this series, I'm sorry for using a lot of examples here, but I think examples will help you do it better. Like how to tell a story. This one is about how to express. If you have to highlight a problem, if you're an activist, or of the activist type, or you have a certain point of view that you want to express, how do you tell that? Okay, so I had this thing about Bombay, that Bombay lacks space. Everybody complains about there is no space in the city. Now, I was thinking of how do I show or express that using photographs. So one way is to physically show cramped spaces, which has been done to death. So then I realized that uh, when I looked around and walked around, I realized that the city has few playgrounds, and as in the children, or like if you go see a playground, it's always like the society where I live. What used to be a playground was taken over and it became a car park. Or if you go to Bandra East, all those open ground over there next to those homes where kids used to play are now parked with Ola and Uber, what do you call, cars. So the children are forced to play on the road. So suddenly it struck me that the people who are affected by a city without space beyond uh, their homes and stuff are actually the children. It's a city where children do not have space to play. So to highlight the problem of space, instead of going Kangana Ranaut over an issue, I thought I'll probably show it in a subtle way and from the point of view of children, which is playgrounds of Mumbai. And it's amazing how children in Mumbai adjust to the lack of space. These are just three small examples of play. An amazing idea of why don't the best place to do practice for Janmashtami is actually in the sea, because if you fall into the water, shallow water. Or this kabaddi, when the kabaddi league was on, these kids had pulled some carpets and they started playing kabaddi on the street. So stuff like this. So you talk about space in the city, but as a photographer, you are using other ways to express this. It's a device all photographers use. In street photography, you can easily do that. And it's also there's another tricks that I have borrowed from advertising. This is actually a trick my old boss, Agnolo who heads Taproot now, uh, told me in relation to writing, but which I use in relation to photography. Is that you take two things and you connect it with a story, and you have usually you have something very interesting. Like for example, I connected play children playing it, and the space in the city, and I built a story around it. uh, then if it comes to Mumbai, about Mumbai growing or old people in the city, it's about uh, how we treat people and how the city um, is not quite adaptive for the older people. So you take two things and you try to connect. You take any two things which are not connected, and if you try to build a connection, you will always build a story. And those connections can be made easily once you have shot a lot of images, and then you will see connections between different stories that you have shot. And then there are getting into the different things. There are you have to see things that people others don't see. In the sense, of course, people know about rivers of Mumbai, but uh, there is when you take a camera, for some strange reason, it happens to all of us. When you look at a place from the point from a viewfinder, the world changes. You see it from a lens which is kind of different from your normal eyes. Suddenly, uh, uh, you have you see things that details that you probably overlooked in the overall bigger picture, because the lens camera allows you to focus on little things. It also allows you to contemplate later when you see the photographs and you look at the different things and you spot different things. And this is a series about rivers of Mumbai, and where now a lot of people do shoot, but these are things, these are stories that that you have uh, to kind of focus on. I'll tell you why. I'm just using rivers of Mumbai as an example, but as a photographer, your not job, your superpower is that you can see things that others cannot see, and you see it in a kind of different way. And I think that the takeaway from this entire talk is, or what I'm saying is, that you have to develop that that difference that you have, that uniqueness that you have, and how you can develop it using a simple process, a simple but long term method, and then getting it out for the people out there to see. So that's actually it from me. The rest is up to uh, you, as in going out and shooting. Sorry, did I go over time?
It was absolutely worth it, Gopal. Thank you so, so much. Learned a lot. So I'm going to jump right into the questions. We've received a couple of them.
Yeah.
Aman Tiwari asks, how do we select the stuff for a pic? Or do we initially begin with random stuffs? Or is there any criteria or pattern to start with for the beginners?
Yeah. So I started off. I thought I started off with random stuff, in the sense. I took a camera and I used to. I bought a camera. My wife gave me a digital camera, which I was not using. I was waiting to go on a holiday to shoot, but I was not doing that. So what I did was I took it and I started taking it on my way to work, and then on the way to work I started shooting images. That is how I became a photographer. So I used to shoot random stuff. Okay, and at that point of time, I had no idea that I'll be shooting cities and stuff like that. I was probably looking for advertising insights, maximum, because that was my job. Other than that, I was not looking for anything specific. But a random stuff is what you should tell yourself that you're going to do, but invariably you will end up shooting things that interest you, and out of that randomness you will find, like I said, a little some kind of pattern, and things that you like to shoot, or images that came out much better and that makes you happy, and then you want to develop on it. So shoot as much random stuff as possible until a pattern develops. And you can shoot random stuff even after a pattern develops. There's nothing wrong with that. And also, random stuff has another advantage, in the sense, especially in street photography or city photography, is that you can do all kinds of photography. In the sense, you can shoot portraits, You can shoot food, you can shoot landscapes, you can shoot cityscapes, you can shoot clouds, you can shoot children. I mean, you can shoot all kinds of stuff. In the sense, when you shoot random stuff, you might discover some hidden interest that you have too, like I did. And so yeah, I would say random stuff, and experiment. I experiment a lot, even with gear, even with light, times of day. The more you experiment, the more chances are on you finding what you like faster. I hope that
Excellent,
answers.
excellent. I hope too. So the next question that Chetty Mania asks, how does one request for permission or consent for taking their photo?
Yeah. Okay. So very important when you do city photography. So consent is important, especially if you are posting, if you are going to, if you have plans to publish it and stuff like that. Unless it is news, in which case it become. I mean, that still does not give you the right to go and shoot anything. So when you're shooting street, if you're taking portraits, or if you're going to get a close up of a person, and if you're going into private space, you should always take consent. It is very important. You should take the consent. And if you plan to publish it, if you can get a written consent, you'll get a form online. If you Google, that would be better if you're going to publish it. In my case, I'm not publishing anything. In the sense, I'm not doing it for as a professional. It is going to go on a blog, and I avoid close-ups as much as possible. Uh, because in street photography, consent is not always possible. In the sense, so how I go around it is, this is my personal thing, and which all the street photographers use, is that my subject is always the city, and I try to place the person within a city, or the people within a city, and not too much on the person. So like, for example, if it is about a eatery, it will be about or a section of a street. I take, the story would be about the entire place and not just that one person. So that way I don't have to uh, I mean, it doesn't become about that person or his thing. And I also I as earlier I used to, even I made that mistake of not shooting without consent, and which I don't do as often now. I try to keep a distance, and I try to avoid as many close-ups and stories. But it's and taking consent is actually, while it might take the spontaneity out of your photographs, taking consent has another great advantage, which is you're starting conversations. So your camera is a great conversation starter. So if you're taking consent, it is, don't go and ask for permission. Always start a conversation, and then take the photographers while asking consent. In the sense, because that's one way to not dehumanize the person you're shooting. In the sense, it will also make you a better photographer, because you're here to learn, you're here to observe the world. And cameras are excellent, what do you call, uh, conversation starters. When people when they ask you, what are you going to do with it, tell the truth. If they ask you who you are, tell the truth. If you, whatever you do, always tell the truth, because actually, you are more, for them you are interesting as they are interesting to you. So starting a conversation, talking to them, is always a good idea. And invariably, if somebody says no, please avoid shooting. So that is there. But you don't need consent if you're going, like, for example, if you're going for a protest, or if you're going to a public space outside a railway station or a crowded place. There it's okay. If there are many people and if some things are happening, that's fine. It's almost in the realm of photojournalism or citizen journalism, so it's fine. But always take consent if you're going into a private space, and if you're going kind of close or intimate with a person's story. And I think Manya is a woman, so I should add this thing about, which is a bad thing about India, because it's easier for an uncle like me to shoot in India rather than a girl, especially street photography, because people stare at. I mean, it's just that the social conditions are not very conducive for women photographers. But there are ways around it. It's like, and this applies to both men and women. Is that when you're doing city photography, you have to be a little. You have to be camouflaged. I mean, you have to merge with the crowd. You have to be the guy next door or girl next door. Be ordinary. You don't have to show off your gear. You don't have to dress like people who go for the city walks, showing that, yeah, I'm here, I'm a tourist. So you can avoid that. You can use a small camera, if and things like that. So that you learn as you start shooting. It applies to all people. But yeah, so that's it about permissions.
Excellent. Barney Grumble asks, what's your view on essential gear needed for good photography? Had a basic DSLR purchased a few years back, but in this day and age of filters, the photos from a beginner DSLR looks a bit vanilla, due to which I lost interest. Are expensive lens and a good camera a must, or any other tips as my interest towards night city photography?
Okay. So if your interest is night city photography, I think you will need good gear, because if you have to get good images, you will have to have the right. Your DSLR is fine. So I don't. I rarely use my DSLR. I have a DSLR. I don't even know where it is, because it doesn't really matter, because I give more importance to the story than to the wrongly, actually, because so the art and craft of photography is also important. But uh, but uh, uh, I, like any photographer, even a street photographer, I would say that a good camera, a good lens, the best gear is always welcome. I mean, that is what photography is all about. If you have the best, if you can afford the best, use it. And uh, and uh, but I think, coming to city photography, I think your thing was that you mentioned that you lost interest because it looks a bit vanilla compared to others. By that yardstick, I should not be shooting at all, because all my images are ordinary street photographs. It's what I shoot, or the stories that I add to it, that make it kind of make it interesting. So and something that everyone should remember is, you should never compare your photography with others, because no two people are alike. Stop comparing and start shooting. uh, Vanilla is the most popular ice cream flavor in the world, I guess. So don't don't worry about if your images don't look as good as what you think it should be, but you will eventually get there. And might be you will discover new ways of doing night photography, which others don't. I would love to know which city is from, so that it will give me an idea of what it could what kind of shots it could shoot.
Sure. I do have a few questions for you. One
Yeah.
being, how do you approach photographing strangers? And the second being, among the gadgets that you own, is there something that you wish you hadn't bought?
Okay. Uh, Strangers, one, I keep a distance. So, like I told you, it's that I try to place people in a city. I mean, the story is always the city, and the person happens to be part of it. So that is one way to, strangers are part of the scenery, kind of
Right.
stuff. Otherwise, if I'm going closer, when it is a stranger, you have to speak to them, if possible, either before shooting, ideally, and striking conversation. I think that is I'll give you an example. In a city like Bombay or Delhi, actually the problem is people are over friendly, in the sense, in most cases, when you go for taking photograph, except for the like the super rich places, most people gated community type places. Other than that, actually people are very friendly. So one thing about being a city photographer and loving the city is that you have to be a friendly person. You have to be I think approach to photographing strangers has more to do with your personal skills than uh, than anything else, because it's a bargain. It's a kind of discussion, and it's a kind of favor that you ask, or it's a very human relationship. And even if you're not you can practice it even if you're not shooting pictures. In the sense, it's like going to a chai shop and talking. Like, for example, I shoot a lot with photojournalists and other photographers like Ritesh Uttam Chandani, Siddharth Agarwal. There's lots of different people who are who are also photographers, who are professional photographers, as well as who do different types of photography. And what I have noticed about them is that they spend a lot of time at the places they shoot, uh, compared to me. I am more of a shoot and scoot kind of person because I'm walking constantly. But other street photographers I've noticed are all very, very patient, like kingfisher, or like the strokes that the fishing birds. So what they do is they go to a place, they talk to the people, they understand the place, then they look at it from different angles without them noticing, of course, and then they weigh before they actually take that shot, which is a beautiful process. In the sense, it's they also get to know a lot about that place. They also make friends. Uh, in fact, I have another friend of mine, Aslam, who does Mumbai River project. He shoots rivers, so he has friends everywhere. In the sense, he goes to a place, he sits, he talks to them, and then he takes their number. Then he sends them their photographs, and after a few days, he goes back, and then within few days, he'll be roaming around with them. I mean, taking pictures. And he's and even the people whom he talks to are of different age groups and different genders and everything. And that's like he's an extremely extrovert person. So yeah, but not all people are like that. But if you're an introvert also, nothing like a smile. And like, for example, I hardly speak any Hindi. My Hindi is like the pits. I mean, I speak Hindi, but the accent is bad. And uh, but nobody I use it as an advantage, in the sense, you talk to them in a kind of uh, not so comfortable way, but uh, it, people are like kind of helpful with your language shortcomings and stuff like that. So all those kind of things, you can use whatever communication skills or drawbacks you have to engage with people, and then speak to the strangers, or so that they're no longer strangers. Yeah. So that's my tip, or tips.
Oh, great. Excellent. I mean, thank you so much, Gopal, for your time. And I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people. You did inspire me a lot, to start my journey on photography, maybe. And for those not sure to use an appropriate platform for your work, this is for all the creators out there. ScrollStack is the place for you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. See you guys next week with a different topic and a different creator. So, till then, have a great week. Thanks again, Gopal, for your time, and see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.